Yes.
We will now reconvene the special city council meeting. Madam City Attorney, can you please report the closed session action?
There were 3 items on the closed session agenda. Item number 1, the council gave direction to its labor negotiators. Item number 2, the city council received a status report from legal counsel. And item number 3, Councilmember Saab made a motion, and that was seconded by Councilmember Frometa, to authorize the city attorney to initiate litigation against Jose Vasquez Bonilla and Alliance Insurance in subrogation in connection with a workers' compensation matter, Linares versus Downey. And that ends the closed session report.
Thank you. We will now reconvene the special city council, the special city council meeting is now adjourned. City Clerk Duarte, will you please take roll?
I would like to inform members of the public that council members Ashton and Saab are participating in this council meeting via teleconference. Councilmember Ashton?
Present.
Councilmember Rodriguez is excused. Councilmember Saab?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Frometa?
Present.
And Mayor Pacheco.
Present. Thank you. I would now like to have Mayor Pro Tem from Meta provide the invocation.
Yes, ma'am. Can we please rise, those of us that are here in the council chambers? We'll go ahead and bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you, Lord, for your blessings. We want to thank you for keeping our families and keeping us healthy, Lord, during these difficult times. And Father, as we come together to conduct the business of the people and the business of the city of Downey, Father God, we ask for wisdom and we ask for direction and discernment as we make decisions, Lord, that will impact our residents. And Father, we pray for a spirit of calmness, a spirit of peace, and Lord, that you would continue to give us the strength and the vision to continue to move forward as a united city. Bless the city council, bless the staff and our city manager, and bless the people, Lord, our first responders, police and fire, and bless, Lord, everyone that works together to move our city forward. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you. City Manager Rivas, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Would be my pleasure, Mayor. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now is the time for City Council member announcements, requests for future agenda items, conference meeting reports. I would like to start off to my far left with Mayor Pro Tem Frometa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Good evening to those of you that are watching us via Zoom or via YouTube. It is amazing the wonders of technology, and in spite of the difficulties we are going through with this pandemic, I do want to say, Madam Mayor, and the rest of my council colleagues calling in, and our city manager and the rest of the staff here, that it is a pleasure to be here in person and to see you and to be able to conduct the city's business. I had the pleasure last week to meet with the individuals from the Downey Foundation of Educational Opportunities. So I wanted to give them a shout out tonight because they are working very hard with members of our community. And I have here in front of me these really neat face shields. And as you've probably heard, and it's been written about in the local paper, and it's been shared in various social media platforms, these face shields were produced by our Downey High School robotics team. in response to this pandemic. And these face shields have been given to our local hospitals. And the reason I met with Linda Saldana, the president of the foundation, is because our amazing Downey Unified, Downey High School students created so many of these that we have several hundred left. And what I wanted to do, as you know, my day job, what it is, I realized that some of the local dental offices and orthodontic places in town that are going to be opening soon may lack the protection equipment to see patients. And so we are going to be giving some of these to our local dental offices. Some of these have also been given out to the assisted living facilities here in Downey for the individuals that are caring for our most vulnerable. And so I just wanted to share that with you because in the midst of the difficulty and the trying times, we continue to pull together as a community and do really good work and good things for our residents. I know we've mentioned before the involvement regarding the collaboration with the County of Los Angeles Help and the food distribution that took place a couple of weeks ago. Seems like years. A couple of weeks ago for thousands of families. But what I wanted to say too, Madam Mayor, and my council colleagues calling in, is that we realize, and those of you watching us on YouTube, that we are in a difficult situation, and we all realize that. The state financial forecast is pretty bleak. The governor announced just last week that we're looking at a $54 billion shortfall. And that is a huge number. That is definitely going to impact also our California public system and K through 12 that will lose about $18 billion. Now, why am I saying all these things? Well, because in the city of Downey, we must continue and we will continue to be very vigilant in terms of our finances and our spending. And while there's other cities around us that are really having a difficult time as we look at slowly entering the recovery phase of this pandemic. And as you've heard, we've all been keeping a close eye on what the governor is announcing every day. There's a slow reopening on some businesses and pickups and things of that nature. But we will continue in the city of Downey to be very prudent and fiscally responsible when it comes to the programs and the services that we provide. And I want to let our community residents know that we will, as a council, continue to be very protective of our public safety and ensure that those services continue to be provided to our community. Our number one priority is public safety. So I want to mention that. I also want to ensure and make mention that the extra patrols will continue to happen in certain areas. I know we've heard of and we've seen of gatherings at certain places, our empty malls, some races that have been happening, and that will be addressed. And there's extra patrolling that will be happening so that those individuals are not harming one another. Madam Mayor, I just, that's all I have to share this evening. But again, if I can ask our police chief, who is joining us via Zoom, to please have extra patrol go to the empty areas such as the Landing and Stonewood Mall. We had reports and we saw those videos of street racing going on in those particular empty lots. And it's not happening too late at night, but there was one particular instance, a young lady was hit in one of those vehicles. That's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, I'd like to see if Councilmember Alex Saab would like to say anything. We can't hear you.
There you are.
Thank you. I was muted by the host. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll keep my comments just real short. Thank you, everyone, for those from the public who have joined us today. I just want to I participated, as I have now for several years, on the Gangs Out of Downey group, and I just wanted to acknowledge, because this is her last meeting, the president, Julie Garcia. She did a phenomenal job. We all know that Gangs Out of Downey is a special group in our city. It's all comprised of volunteers in the community, people that really care, from different segments, from the school district to nonprofits to business leaders, just from all segments of the community, from the justice system. And she just did a great job. And she filled some big shoes with Mark McDaniel being president the year before. I just want to acknowledge her. She did a great job. And thank you all for continuing to. We all know that a lot of these nonprofits right now are going through some really challenging times, as are places of worship and businesses and just everyone across the board. But they're really holding the fort there, and continuing to move forward in creative ways. I just want to thank Julie Garcia and everyone involved in that as well. This would normally be a time where we would be planning and celebrating and attending graduations, and it's I know that many seniors who were looking forward to the senior programs and events, they're obviously missing out. So I know that the district's done a great job. You're going to be seeing around town a lot of signs and people's lawns recognizing the graduates, and that's a really nice thing. So if you know a senior, just encourage them. And I know it's a difficult time already as it is, but I know they're going to get through it, and we're all going to get through it together. And really, that concludes my comments, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Ashton, you're up next.
Thank you. I'll keep it really brief. I just have 2 items for staff. So first item, we had an emergency meeting about a month ago in regards to rent for a continuance of rent for residents and for businesses. And I know we kind of only looked at it for a month, and we've kind of gone to that month. And now today there's a report from LA County saying that they're going to extend the safer at home mandates until the end of July. So I think it'd be a good idea at the next meeting to take a look at that and see if we need to update anything to make sure that we are doing what we can to protect our residents who aren't able to work during this time. So that's item number 1. And then item number 2 for staff, with the street sweeping thing, I think, there are certain neighborhoods that are really having a difficult time with dealing with the street sweeping. And one idea that came to mind that was brought up to me, I'd like to take credit for it, but I don't get paid for those decisions. But in all seriousness, I had a couple of people suggest that maybe we do street sweeping on street, like one side of the street on one day and then the other side of the street on the other day. So that way it allows for people to be able to put their cars somewhere during the meantime. And for certain areas, it's not as big of a deal, but I know there are areas where you have a lot of cars, and that would kind of help out with that. And if there's a way we could have staff look into that, I think that'd be a good idea. And we could report back to council on that. With that concludes my comments. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Ashton, actually, that particular idea was brought up to me by the mayor, and we looked at it. There's some costs associated. It's feasibility thing of cleaning one side of the street and then coming back at a different hour and time. But we'll dust it off and one more time and take a look at it. But we have vetted that idea out already.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. So again, I want to welcome everyone who is watching us via YouTube. Thank you for participating virtually, since we can't have anyone here in our council chambers. I hope everyone had a happy Mother's Day on Sunday. I wanted to let everybody know that I have been on several Zoom meetings and conference calls with the LA County Dr. Barbara Ferrer, Mayor Eric Garcetti, our Assembly member, our state senator, to get as much information as I can in regards to how our road to reopening our businesses will look. There's still a lot of unanswered questions, so I will continue to be on the conference calls to obtain information. I've also been in communication with our Assembly member and state senator to try to obtain funding for cities with a population of less than 500,000. And we also wrote a letter on behalf of the city to our governor requesting this funding as well. I will continue to do my weekly videos, letting Downey residents know what services are available and activities are available for everyone while they are complying with the safer at home orders. Last week I did a special video recognizing nurses during National Nurses Week, which is from May 6th through May 12th. And today is actually International Nurses Day. So to all of our nurses who may be watching us, or if you know of any nurses, who I happen to have one at home, is my mother. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being our frontline workers during this moment of crisis, and for everything that you do to help our patients deal with, or your patients deal with COVID-19. So thank you for your service to our nurses. I did want to mention that tomorrow we are having a food collection drive from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. over at Downey First Christian Church on New Street and 4th Street. We are asking for canned foods, beans and rice, and pasta. This will help Food Help, who has been distributing food to needy families every Saturday morning from the same location. And right now, there are many families who are struggling. I know Food Help has been helping approximately 500 to 600 families every Saturday morning. So there is a need out there. So if you can help and you can donate food, please do so tomorrow, again, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. And I want to conclude with just thanking all of those who are abiding to the safer at home orders, and to all who are wearing their facial coverings when visiting essential businesses. I know these are trying times, and I want everyone to please be patient, and most importantly, please try to be kind to each other. This is a time where we all need to work together. So thank you again, and we will now begin our regular council meeting. So the next item on the agenda is public hearing. There is one public hearing this evening. It is Federal Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Grants, FY 2020-2024, Consolidated Plan 2020 to 2021, Annual Action Plan Analysis of Impediments to Fair Housing Choice and Citizen Participation and Plan. 1, approve the proposed 5-year consolidated plan, the Annual Action Plan Analysis of Impediments to Fair Housing Choice Citizen Participation Plan. 2, authorize city manager to transmit all 4 documents and required certification to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And 3, modify and execute each agreement and/or contract related to the implementation and administration of the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnerships grant programs, including the subrecipient grant agreements based on the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's appropriation to the city. City Clerk Duarte, do you have the proof of publication?
Yes, Mayor.
Is there a motion is there a motion and a second to receive and file?
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
So ordered by the mayor. City Manager Olivas, is there a staff report?
Madam Mayor, there is a staff report that will be provided by Community Development Director Aldo Schindler.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. On an annual basis, I stand up in front of you and present the programs that we have forecasted for the next calendar year And that's a requirement of the Department of Housing and Urban Development that we do. We receive our CDBG funds and our home funds, which are Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Funds, from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Great. As I mentioned, we receive our funds on an annual basis from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And our grants help us fund our affordable housing activities, our neighborhood improvement programs, our economic development strategies, and general public services for our low and moderate income residents. Every 5 years, HUD requires that we do a deeper dive into our programs to make sure that we're meeting our goals, and to also make sure that over the next 5 years that come before us, that we also move to meet our goals. And that's in the form of the consolidated plan. Also, the analysis of impediments to fair housing, HUD wants to make sure that we're partnering with the appropriate affordable housing developers, much like we did with the Habitat for Humanity project that we completed a couple years ago, and much like we're going to do with the County of Los Angeles and the Veterans Affordable Housing Project that we have planned at the former American Legion site. And also the citizen participation plan. HUD wants to make sure that we're conducting outreach to the community and communicating what we do. We've taken advantage of all aspects of our social media platform. We've also updated our ADA plan so that we can sharpen that level of communication as well. And we've accessed our language interpreters at every opportunity that was needed. And so we've complied with all those 3 plans and seek to do so in the future. Lastly is our annual action plan, and that's what we propose to you every May. And that, in essence, is an approval of our annual budget that goes forward. On the next slide, we have our overall budgets for the 2 programs, for CDBG and Home. The good news this year is that we got an increase in 3% of our CDBG program and 4% of our Home program. Doesn't seem like a lot, but we usually get cut. Last year, we got cut by 0.5% in our CDBG program and 4.8% in our Home program. So any positive or any increase for us is always good news. And what we do with that increase is we spread it across our social service providers so that they have more money to serve. They've stuck with us over the last decade and have continually received cuts in their programs and continue to provide service and leverage their services as they've done so. The next table that's in front of you is the actual budget that we're proposing for recommendation for our CDBG program. And so we conduct housing rehabilitation. We leverage that money against our home budget as well. We serve 20 households on an annual basis, and those are in the form of $35,000 grants. The majority of that goes to aging in place in terms of improvements to bathrooms, bedrooms, and kitchens. And we also try to spruce up the exterior of the house in terms of paint, windows, doors, and roofs so that we can make the neighborhood look better. We also have the public service activities, as I mentioned. The Barbara J. Riley Community Center, that funding has stayed the same for the last 5 years. So anytime we get an increase in that category, it goes to the social service providers. The funds for the Barbara J. Riley Community Center are for maintenance and utilities, and that helps offset general fund expenditures on that site. The rest of them, adult literacy, ARC, Aspire, 1020, TLC, and our senior programs, once again, have been programs that have been with us and have all served our low and moderate income residents, all from youth to our seniors, to providing after-school programs at Golden Elementary, at our parks facilities, providing senior meals for lunch and for dinner, and for social activities for our seniors are what we are recommending that we continue to fund. And once again, any increase that we get is spread across the board. In past years, any decreases that we've gotten, we've also spread across the board as well. We also have Section 108 loan repayments that we need to conduct. We have our Nissan Economic Development Job Creation Covenant that we owe against. We have the same type of job creation covenant for Fiat that we did years ago as well. And then most recently, we provided funding to enhance the sports complex that's being built by the County of Los Angeles. On an aside, they actually are in building plan check on that site. They hope to break ground I think by late summer, if not early fall. Prior to the COVID-19 situation, they had a groundbreaking scheduled for June, but once again, I think that that's probably going to be delayed. We also received 3 applications from service providers that we're not recommending funding for. The first one is Play Collective. They're located on 8335 Firestone Boulevard. They provide parent and child enrichment classes and parenting workshops and networking with other parents. They requested $50,000. So you can see that the money spread extremely thin, and for a $50,000 request, it would be quite a big take. And they wanted that money for personnel services, space, utilities, insurance, equipment, and supplies. So actually the whole kit and caboodle in terms of what they do. The next one was the Community Family Guidance Center, and they're located at 8320 Iowa Street. They help underserved children, their families heal from trauma, abuse, and emotional behavior and mental issues. They asked for $25,000, and that is for personnel. Lastly is the St. Louis Resource Center that's at 8535 Florence Avenue, and they provide healthcare outreach, enrollment, and screening, and they requested $5,000 for 2 enrollment counselors. And once again, we're suggesting that we continue to fund the services that we have, and for the biggest reason is they're exceeding their goals. HUD monitors us on an annual basis. We monitor our service providers on a quarterly basis to make sure that they're serving the amount of people in the fashion that they said they would, and all of them have not only achieved that, but exceeded that. Alicia looks like it went to sleep on me. Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. And our home program, that's separate from our CDBG program in that it's much more specific. You can only use that for home services for low-income individuals. So we fund our housing rehab program out of that. As I mentioned, we couple that with our CDBG program. We also fund an affordable housing partnership, and that's partnership with developers that build affordable housing. The example I gave previously is the Habitat for Humanity project that we built a couple years ago, and the same one holds true in the future, and that's the Veterans Housing Project that's planned for the former American Legion site. In terms of the rental assistance program, that's the funds that the Whole Child gets to help folks that are homeless in terms of providing them rental vouchers, or people that are on the verge of being homeless and providing them with rental assistance. They also pay back rent that is due so folks won't become homeless. And we've conducted a community outreach. We had our public hearing on this topic at your January 11th meeting of this year. We had 3 different community meetings on 3 different days and 3 different times to try to capture as many people as we can. We had an average of 7 attendees at those different community meetings, with the low number being at 3, with the high number being at 8. And so once again, we continue to market those activities through paper flyers, ads in the Downey Patriot, and of course, blasting that out on all of our social media platforms. With that, that concludes my presentation, and I can attempt to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Aldo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have a question.
Sure.
Now, do we anticipate to these numbers based again on the projected budget shortfall for the state budget that could again really impact our allocation?
Sure. Luckily, we don't. We're funded through the federal government, and these funds are locked in. So we're not expecting any hits in that nature.
Are there any other questions?
One more. How do we, again, looking at the difficulties of this year with the pandemic and our inability to, again, interact with our residents the way we would like, how do we, do you anticipate, I know you just mentioned we will continue to promote this via our social media platforms and our city website, but are there any other thoughts to host some type of a Zoom meeting with potential interested residents and really get that out there?
Sure. It's twofold. We've actually partnered with our Parks and Rec department. As you've heard, that they're doing a tremendous amount of outreach and follow-ups with our senior population that may be at risk. So we've partnered with them in terms of our programs and services to do the same. We've also partnered with our service providers to do the same as well. So once again, not letting the COVID-19 situation stop us and looking at other ways to communicate with the people that we're serving, and especially if we haven't heard from them in terms of providing service. In the future, you're exactly right. We've worked with our service providers already to conduct Zoom meetings on their quarterly monitoring to make sure that they're up to date, and we'll look at partnering with them to reaching out to the population that they serve as well.
One more thing, how, and I'm asking these questions too for the benefit of those that may be joining us via YouTube. What is there a very, how stringent is that checklist when someone wants to apply for someone else or for themselves for the for that to allow the property improvement and or preservation project?
Sure. You know what? The challenge with these programs is the income eligibility limits are very strict. They're updated on an annual basis. And to give you an example, so for an extremely low family, you can't make more than $33,800 a year, and that's for a family of 4. For a very low income family, for the same size family of 4, you can't make more than $56,300. And for a low income family of 4, you can't make more than $90,100 on an annual basis. So we have to screen everybody that we serve. We try to get as creative as possible because the CDBG batch of money is more flexible than the home batch of money. So when we approach somebody based on their income and based on the funding pool that we have, we try to use the one that's going to help them the most.
Okay. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you know off the top of your head, on average, how many of these cases or how many homes we potentially assist on a given year?
Oh, sure. Our goal is 20, and we've met that goal. I've been here for 6 years now, so we've hit 20 every year.
Excellent. Thank you, Aldo.
Sure.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions from my council colleagues, I will now open it up for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the City Council regarding the public hearing item only may now call our teleconference line at 562-299-6622. For those who submitted comments via email, your comments will be read into the record and no further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. City Clerk Duarte, do we have the first speaker on this item? Do we have any speakers?
Yes, Mayor, we have one call. Please go ahead and begin speaking.
Good evening, my niggers.
Oh.
COVID-19H is alive still. Can you believe that? Regarding the rent and business of rent under community development block grant budget, there is no stringent preservation for low income. Ben Carson's right. Fuck Eric Garcetti in housing. In addition to Ms. Barger, should try to help you guys sharpen the ADA to assist elderly and disabled to get into these housings at the Ritz and the Marriott so niggers don't have to sleep in the streets and contact with COVID-19 to continue this pandemic that we're all experiencing, and it's really stressful and fucked up. So at the senior center, regarding that $73,000 budget, it's not enough. You should try to enforce increasing it 1.5% each year so niggers can get the assistance. So if you need help, it's apparent you call 2 202-225-1766 and demand that from that stupid cunt out there in Washington. 202-225-1766 who sent me 2 fucking stimulus checks, you stupid assholes, when you should have only sent me 1. Fuck the IRS and fuck you, 42 U.S.C. 1983. Welcome back, you bitches.
Do we have any other
We
calls?
don't have any other callers now.
City Clerk Duarte, do we have any written public comments?
We do not, Mayor.
I will now entertain a motion, a second, to close the public hearing.
I make a motion.
Second? I'll second. So ordered by the
Second.
mayor. Is there a motion and a second to approve staff's recommended actions?
I make a motion.
Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
City Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Ashton?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez is excused. Councilmember Saab?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Frometa?
Yes.
And Mayor Pacheco.
Yes.
The motion was approved with Councilmember Rodriguez excused.
Thank you. Now is the time for non-agenda public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the City Council regarding non-agenda public comment only may now call our teleconference phone line at 562-299-6622. For those who submitted comments via email, your comments will be read into the record and no further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. Before we begin the non-agenda public comment period, I would like to remind members of the public participating telephonically that the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting, even if you are participating telephonically. Each member will have 3 minutes to address the council on issues that are within the city's jurisdiction. Since we are under a federal, state, and local emergency declaration and Los Angeles County's Safer at Home order, I will limit the non-agenda public comment period to 30 minutes pursuant to Downey Municipal Code Section 2105G. City Clerk Duarte, do we have a speaker?
We do, Mayor. Hello, you can begin speaking now.
Hey there, Mommy Mayor. How are you? Mommy Mayor, how are you guys out there? Did you know I got a call from the Los Angeles Police Department regarding how I was struck, punched by someone from the attorney's office of Mike Feuers prior to going into this coronavirus pandemic? Is that the new policy? You punch people in public meetings under public targeting, under SLAPP? And also, why the fuck would Roybal Allard's staff send me a second check of stimulus when I can only receive, like everyone else, $1,200? Well, veterans and their families are not receiving their $1,200 immediately, effectively, as it is said to be so. So regarding Ms. Barbara, the so-called jackass doctor from the Board of Supervisors, she don't know shit. She don't know shit. That's the reason why we're all fucked up. Everyone has a different plan of how to assist people who need services, activity, and programs under your policy and pattern and practice of local government. So vote for Mike Garcia. Fuck the cunt that's running against him. We need more Republicans, more Democrats to finish the fucking job you assholes have been doing horribly with in our society. So again, contact Roybal Allard at 202-225-1766 because it's apparent no one fucking cares about homeless, no one cares about our rents, no one fucking cares about sending stimulus checks on time, and you're wasting your fucking time sending me a second stimulus, you stupid cunts, from the IRS so you can charge me interest on stealing federal dollars. That's how fucking stupid all of you are. So Ben Carson, hear this out. The Marriott and the Ritz Hotel were built with monies of state and federal. Why doesn't Downey send some of their homeless fucking people there?
You can begin speaking now.
I'm sorry.
You can state your name and begin speaking, please.
My name is Margaret Villa. I'm calling on behalf of the assumption or the notion that they want to reduce picketing. I'm not surprised one bit that this was coming down the pipeline. The city council has reduced public comment, has limited the time. The city council has already restricted videotaping at council meetings, with the exception from your seat. This is infuriating to me. You want us to behave like good little boys and girls and take our marching orders. This was all because, in my opinion, the result of a packed house, many packed houses, for the same argument of rent. When we asked for the 45-day moratorium, we were asking for help, just a simple Band-Aid, which you all denied, well, with the exception of Sean Ashton. This idea is absurd, and it appears to be an attempt to silence us, we the people. I look at it like a mini coup, is what I would describe this. These protests have been peaceful, and the notion that a plan of some type of action to silence us seems unconstitutional and hinging on our First Amendment rights. This is typical behavior from our government. And I like to also add, your neighbors were delighted with us practicing our First Amendment rights. And a few of them said they were entertained after being cooped up due to the safer at home. So with that in mind, I just can't see how this can even move forward. It's absurd. And I guess I'll go ahead and end it there for now. I wish I was there protesting instead. I'd love to be vocal there.
Hello, please state your name and begin speaking.
Yes, I'm Joey, a resident here at the city of Downey. Now, yesterday I had the privilege of speaking with Sean Ashton, which was, I thank him for coming out. But one thing that I got a chance and opportunity to address to Mr. Ashton was the concern about John Askewy still sitting in the assistant manager position, representing Downey in the Central Basin. I told Sean about the videos, about the evidence that we have online, where he can be seen making sexist comments and instigating an assault against another elected member. And Sean, if you remember on video, which we can provide for you, you said that you did not condone that behavior, that it was unacceptable. I emphasize how this is unbecoming and the actions of a sexist misogynist. And I know you understand, but I don't understand why the mayor and the rest of the city council refuses to not acknowledge it, because I know you're all smart enough to understand it, but to do something about it, to take some action. I think what you guys want to do is pretend it doesn't exist and sweep it under the rug until John Askew has completed his objectives. And I think that's problematic because rather than looking out for our community, you're looking out for your own political interests. And that is unacceptable, particularly for people who take pictures with the youth, claiming to empower women and claiming to be defending our communities. If you're going to take pictures and cameos, Mayor, you should follow your words with your own actions. You have an assistant manager, which you have the power to remove from the Central Basin, and you have a manager who condones his behaviors as well. So you have two problems that you're not addressing. And it's unfortunate because you're supposed to be the epitome of our advancement in the progressive direction as our first mayor Latina, but you are failing horribly. Now the manager is a problem. John Askew is a problem. They are instigating frivolous lawsuits that you guys are directing against the water basin, which is going to cost Downey over $300,000 up to $1 million when we consider the other 22 cities that are involved in this. All this is going to do is it's going to embolden corruption and put money in the pockets of dirty water lawyers. So you guys should be more fiscally responsible. Clearly, by looking at Measure S and seeing your shortfall, it doesn't seem you guys are capable of running a budget, or at least your manager isn't. And if that's the case, if the manager is incompetent, and so is his assistant manager who's a sexist misogynist, then we need to reconsider those positions and give them to someone that's more qualified and more capable.
Your time is up.
Do we have any other callers?
One more. Please state your name and begin speaking.
Good evening. My name is Leticia Vasquez-Wilson. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the Downey City Council, and citizens of our community. Again, my name is Leticia Vasquez-Wilson. I'm the president of the Central Basin Municipal Water District. Central Basin is a special district that serves 24 cities across Los Angeles County, Downey being one of them. I appear before you this evening as the first step in the process of getting the truth out and to set the record straight. Over the last several weeks, you and other public officials have been deceived with what I can only describe as wholesale false statements, rumors, inaccuracies, and yes, lies and fraudulent statements about Central Basin. There's been false statements made about our financial condition, false statements made about our leadership, and false statements made about what's actually happening at Central Basin. I'm here today to request equal time, so to speak, that I be allowed to come before you to address these many issues. I have the facts, the actual facts, the documents, and personal knowledge of what the truth is. I request that a specific agenda item be placed on the upcoming City Council agenda for your next regular meeting, and that I be allowed perhaps 10 to 15 minutes to set the record straight and to get the truth out to our various communities and public officials. The Central Basin is vital to this community, and it serves a very important function since it was established by the state legislature in 1950. Notwithstanding a state audit that I was instrumental in requesting on behalf of the citizens of the district upon my election to the board in 2014, that audit in 2015 made 33 recommendations, and all 33 of those recommendations have been fully implemented. I personally ended the corruption with various reforms, including the passage of AB 1794, with 6 years of litigation against the previous attorneys, which ended in a $2.35 million settlement. Some of you may have read about it. I have the documents, I have the records, I have the financial statements, I have the emails, I have it all. And so I request a few moments to get the truth out. To get the truth out to our public officials, to get the truth out to our constituents who deserve to have the truth,
to get the truth out to the public at large. I will send tomorrow morning a request to the city clerk.
Your time has ended. Thank you.
Any further speakers?
Not on the phone, Mayor.
Do we have any written public comment on non-agenda items to be read into the record?
Yes, we do. The first email is from Rodolfo Cortez Barragan. 2 points. Point 1, as demonstrated by the deliberations of the City of San Jose, cities are empowered by the California Constitution to create price controls during an emergency. It's time for the Downey City Council to enact this policy. Reduce the price of rent and mortgage to zero. Alternatively, it can engage in eminent domain proceedings and convert privately owners' apartments to public housing. Do your job. Stop violating the emergency powers given to you under the California Constitution. Forgive the rents. Forgive the mortgages. Do it now. Point 2, John Ascui, the Assistant City Manager for Downey, as well as appointed Director at Central Basin Municipal Water Board, push for the policy that Downey is now suing Central Basin for. Ascui is an Orange County resident who does not care for Downey or for Central Basin. He is an agent of private water corporations who want to bankrupt Central Basin through frivolous lawsuits such as the one you filed against the district. Don't you realize that this is an attempt to steal Downey's water for private profit? Or are you in on it? It's time to do the right thing before their people of Downey sue you, the government, for allowing this man to attack a regulatory agency like the Water Board. I'll repeat, forgive rent and mortgages in Downey. It's in your power. Fire John Ascui. It's in your power. Next, we have a letter from the City of Paramount. Dear Mayor Pacheco, as you know, in December 2015, the state auditor released a report titled Central Basin Municipal Water District. Its board of directors has failed to provide the leadership necessary for it to effectively fulfill its responsibilities. As a result of the special audit, AB 1794 was approved in September 2016, mandating substantial changes to the operations of the Central Basin Municipal Water District. One of the most important changes provided that the governance of the district be expanded from 5 elected board members to include 3 additional directors appointed by the various segments of the water purveyors served by the district. The 3 appointed directors come from number 1, the large purveyors, number 2, all city water purveyors, and 3, 1 at large from all purveyors with weighted voting based on water connections. The appointed directors must have technical expertise and be employed by the entity that nominates them. As a city water purveyor, Paramount is concerned with events that have transpired over the last year at the district. The actions taken by the board raise the same concerns as those identified in the 2015 audit. For their actions, the current district board of directors has been rebuked by the LA County District Attorney and the Metropolitan Water District. In addition, a number of purveyor cities have joined in litigation to address these concerns. The current appointed director representing cities that are water purveyors is John Ascui, Assistant City Manager for the City of Downey. Since his appointment in 2017, Mr. Ascui has strived to serve and represent the interests of the district's communities. Mr. Ascui has sought to improve administration of the district, address known financial issues, and improve district purveyor relations. In response to his efforts, we understand there is a group petitioning the City of Downey for the resignation of Mr. Ascui from the appointed director position. We are writing to express our appreciation for the important work Mr. Ascui has done and continues to do as an appointed director, advancing the interest of all water purveyors within the district. We thank Mr. Ascui for his service and the City of Downey for their support during this time, and ask that you continue to support Mr. Ascui's ongoing appointment as appointed director. Signed, Peggy Lemons, Mayor, City of Paramount. Next, we have an email from Josephine Garcia. Water is essential to life. You privatize water, then the corporation turns around and gouges the people. City Council knows exactly what will happen. Some people have been forced to stop working in this pandemic. The City Council needs to back working people who have been laid off and voice support for bills that forgive mortgage and rents at a time when the corporations are easily bailed out with trillions of dollars. And then we have an email from Catherine Alvarez. We, as the Downey Tenants Union, represent hundreds of families. We are demanding rent and mortgage forgiveness. This helps tenants, homeowners, and landlords. The order from LA County Board of Supervisors still requires tenants to pay back rent, which we don't think should be the case. We think the state and federal government should cancel the mortgages and the rents demanded by the banks. That is why we protested Assemblymember Cristina Garcia and U.S. Representative Lucille Roybal Allard at their homes. We want all local elected officials like the Downey Council to demand that the upper level officials do everything in their power to get 100% rent and mortgage forgiveness for all during this crisis. It can be done. Now is the time to do it. Mayor, that's all we have.
Thank you. Is there a motion to close non-agenda public comment?
Motion.
Okay, I'll make the second. Okay, now on to our consent calendar. Now is the time for consent calendar items. Members of the public wishing to address the City Council regarding consent calendar items only may now call our teleconference line at 562-299-6622. For those who submitted comments via email, your comments will be read into the record and no further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. City Clerk Duarte, do we have any speakers?
Oh, we do, Mayor. Just give me 1 second as they place them on hold. Please state your name and begin speaking now.
Mommy? Mommy? Hi, Miss Yvette. Mommy? Hi, Yvette. You know what's interesting about the capital improvement monies that you guys have been either abusing or stealing or losing is that you, Mr. Levas, get your hand off your face and think about this. Why the hell is it taking so long to use monies for infrastructure and it's taking you so long to fix our failed infrastructure? Look at yourself, Levas. All these fucking parks, and you got that one off the 605 freeway there with all those gates on it, and you're going to beg the government for another bond or some grant to bail you out of that shit. You can't bail the public out of rent. That's fucked up.
Mr. Herman, which item are you on?
I know you're dealing with the so-called housing for homeless and people of low income, but on that agenda, you really have to stay to the topic of fixing these issues as opposed to just throwing a wrench in it and fucking it all up. So fuck Roybal Allard, fuck Gavin Newsom, and vote for Mike Garcia. Donald Trump, fuck them.
Do we have any other?
We have one more. We have two more calls. One moment. Let me just pick this up. They're still placing them on hold. Hello, please state your name and begin speaking now.
Yes, I would like to speak on the residential ticketing ad hoc committee.
Oh, we're actually not on that item yet.
Right, so how do you call in after we call in?
Yes.
Okay.
So it will be after we get through the consent calendar. After this, we'll go into administrative reports, and it will be at that time.
One more call, Mayor.
What's on the agenda?
Hello, please state your name and begin speaking now. This is for consent calendar only.
Hello, my name is Alfredo, and I'm a resident of Paramount. And I just heard the statement from the city. I'd like to say that I highly disapprove. It is very shameful, very disappointed that the city takes such a stance in somebody who is repeatedly violated many laws.
That's not on the agenda. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm on the consent.
I'd also like to state that it should not be infringed upon amendment
We're gonna disconnect consent because this is consent calendar items.
Just hang on. Thank you.
We don't have speakers on consent calendar.
City Clerk Duarte, do we have any written correspondence or consent calendar items only?
We do not.
Are there any council members that would like to remove or abstain from an item?
Madam Mayor, I need to abstain from number 7 out of an abundance of caution.
Anybody else? Seeing none. City Clerk.
I can speak. I need to abstain from item number 6. Can I make a motion to approve?
I'll second.
City Clerk Duarte, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Ashton?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez is excused. Councilmember Saab?
Yes, with abstention number 6.
Mayor Pro Tem Frometa?
Yes, with abstention number 7, 1 and 2.
And Mayor Pacheco?
Yes.
Mayor Pacheco?
Yes.
The consent calendar was approved with Councilmember Rodriguez excused, Councilmember Saab abstaining from item number 6, and Councilmember Frometa abstaining from item number 7.
Thank you. The next item is administrative reports. We have one administrative report this evening, which is the creation of an ad hoc subcommittee to study targeted residential picketing. City Manager Livas, do we have someone who will be presenting a report on this item?
Madam Mayor, I'm gonna hand that over to our city attorney, and she can give this council a report on this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is a proposal to the City Council to form an ad hoc subcommittee to study targeted residential picketing in the city of Downey. Targeted residential picketing is generally defined as protest activity or picketing activity directed at a particular residence or directed at the occupants of a particular residential dwelling. Tonight, we propose to the council to consider forming an ad hoc subcommittee to study this particular issue. The ad hoc subcommittee would do, among other things, study the city's current Downey Municipal Code for existing enforcement tools that would address this kind of activity, such as the city's existing noise ordinance. The subcommittee would also take a look at an ordinance that several other cities have in place regarding targeted residential picketing. This type of ordinance has been upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court as lawful so long as it is carefully crafted to protect the First Amendment rights of protesters in residential areas, but also to protect the privacy rights of occupants of residential, of folks who live in their homes, who are the target of this type of activity. So there are several sample ordinances from other cities, and so the subcommittee it's proposed the subcommittee would take a look at those samples to see whether that is something that would work here in the city of Downey. After the work of the subcommittee would then come back with recommendations to the city council, the full city council, to decide what actions, if any, you want to take on this. That ends my staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions or send it back to you, Madam Mayor, for any comments.
Okay, I would just like to start off with saying that I would like to be on this ad hoc subcommittee. But are there any other comments regarding this item?
Yeah.
I think Councilmember Saab has something to say. Maybe he might be muted. There you go.
Yeah, I was muted. So I have a question, our city attorney's presentation. You said this was a proposal. Was this from staff? How did this proposal come about to the city council?
The proposal came up as a subcommittee rather than just bringing something to the council, because there's a lot of legal issues involved in this particular issue. As you know, there are First Amendment issues. There are also issues involving people who live in their homes and their rights to privacy as well. And so those are complicated issues that we certainly couldn't address here at a council meeting. And we felt that the work of a subcommittee who can study the issue, get some input from police chief and other staff members, the city prosecutor, review some documents of other cities, other ordinances. We felt that would be more appropriate for the work of an ad hoc subcommittee rather than try to hash all of that out in 1 or 2 city council sessions. And so once the ad hoc subcommittee finishes its work, then those recommendations would come back to this full city council for further deliberations and direction.
No, I understand, but I'm saying is, how did this get on the agenda? How was this initiated? Did it come from the city manager? Did it come from you? Did it come from the council? I just don't know how it ended up on the agenda.
Well, my office was made aware that there had been some picketing in front of certain residential properties, and so I looked into the matter to see from our city prosecutor whether there was any tools that would be available. There are in our municipal code, and there are in other cities, other city tools that have been used. And so that's why the item is before you.
So it didn't come from a council member?
Not directly to me.
Okay.
I would like to be on that ad hoc subcommittee as well.
Is there any, Alex, did you have any other questions? Councilmember Saab? He's muted again.
I can't have a discussion if I'm constantly muted. Is there any way to avoid that?
Don't mute.
Are you muting yourself?
And it turns it back to the administrator.
Yeah.
So don't mute yourself anymore, Alex.
Okay. I still don't understand. I don't understand how it got on the agenda. I don't. Anyway, all right. Go ahead. Did you want to say something, Sean?
No, I was just answering your question.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I'd like to hear public comment. It sounds like some of the council members already decided who's going to be on the subcommittee. So I'd like to hear some public comment.
Okay. Members of the public wishing to speak regarding item number 10 only may now call our teleconference line at 562-299-6622. For those who submitted comments via email, your comments will be read into the record and no further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. City Clerk Duarte, do we have any speakers?
Yes, Mayor, we have one call, and I'm just waiting for them to place it on hold.
Okay.
Please state your name and begin speaking.
You want to talk about a recommendation for proposals? There's nothing wrong with picketing. There is nothing wrong with picketing. Ad hoc and picketing have nothing to do with the study. All this is fucking local government trying to silence, censor us, and keep us off our P's and Q's when it comes to asking why crybabies and pussies keep trying to do things behind our back. Why don't you call the city of Los Angeles? They're known for slap. They're known for taking advantage of the public's right and accusing them of making threats. That's how fucked up they are. If you want to find out the truth, call 213-330-9803. Homeland Security wants to know what your opinion is, you fucking jackasses who listen to other cities. Do your own fucking bidding. Do your own recommendations. Don't listen to some fucking assholes that don't know shit about what's happening in our city other than fuck Eric Garcetti.
Please state your name and begin speaking.
Hi, this is Joey from the city of Downey. Saab, I'm sorry you had to go through being muted. Well, that's what we had to constantly go through at the Central Basin when Hamilton and Osceola silenced us, so I feel for you. In regards to the ad hoc committee, when you have incompetent people serving as manager and assistant manager, or city council members not doing their job, it is the duty of the community and the people to let you know what you're doing wrong. If you're not doing your job, even when we're giving you evidence and videos and we're quoting your own words, and you're still refusing to take action, well, then what do you expect? The people have to let you know, and they will do that through their First Amendment rights. Let's not pretend you care about the neighbors. Let's not pretend that you're looking out for our best interests. You don't like picketing because it points out your flaws and your negligence. Rather than doing your job and accepting responsibility as council members, you're turning to the audience, which is your own community, the city of Downey, and you're blaming them. You're trying to silence our First Amendment rights because you can't handle the heat. Now, this isn't the first time that you've done this. Obviously, when you guys try to reduce public comment from 5 minutes to 3 minutes, that was one of the first signs that we knew and understood very well that this council is willing to protect their own image and their own political interests at the cost of the First Amendment right. So again, there's videos, there's evidence of all the problems and issues that are taking on right now in our city, and you guys are doing nothing. And to create a subcommittee that Sab already pointed out mysteriously got into the agenda without the request of any particular councilman. By the way, I expect to know who wanted that on the agenda. I want a name. I want to know which council member partook in putting this item on the agenda. And if you can't identify that, then there's an issue right there, because someone needs to be held accountable. And I'm pretty sure that your district attorney has no business putting things on the agenda that she's not being instructed to. So with that said, do your job, remove John Askewy, remove the manager, stop engaging in frivolous lawsuits, and you won't get picketers outside your house telling you how badly you're messing up. Look at our COVID-19 crisis. We're pushing 300 people infected. That's because you guys continue to fail to do your job. And you want to point fingers at other people for letting you know? That is not only ridiculous, that's pathetic. Please, please, do better. Do your job. Remove sexist pigs from representing our city. Listen to the renters who are struggling and suffering.
Time is up. Hello, please state your name and begin speaking.
Yes, hi, my name is Ian Jameson. I want to just say that this residential picketing ad hoc committee is proto-authoritarian nonsense. It is absolutely ridiculous that during the worst public health crisis in modern history, you people are more concerned with circumscribing our constitutional rights than you are with securing the welfare of tenants and homeowners. And you better believe that we're not going to tolerate any infringement of our rights. We have the National Lawyers Guild behind us. We have a wealth of legal resources behind us. You, in any way, infringe on our rights, we'll file a lawsuit so fast it will make your head spin. Good luck with that, Downey City Council.
Those are all the calls, Mayor.
We have any written public comment to be read into the record?
Yes, Mayor. Give me 1 second. Jameson? Thank you. I'm sorry, Mayor. Yes, we have an email from Brian Heyman. Honorable City Council members, I support a study of the matter, but not by an ad hoc subcommittee of the City Council. As the targets of these legal, constitutionally protected demonstrations are incumbent City Council members, it would strain credulity to believe that a member of the council appointed to serve on such a subcommittee could act with impartiality. Any action coming from a subcommittee on the matter composed of members of council would immediately be attacked as biased in the court of public opinion at minimum and may face a legal challenge as well. If the council is desirous of a study of these demonstrations and what the law may allow for regulating them, it should direct the city attorney to hire a third-party independent consultant to conduct such a study. Council members and candidates for council should not have anything to do with the study as they are inherently conflicted in the matter, in my opinion. Next, we have an email from Maria Estrada. Every American has the right to protest on public property. These are constitutionally protected rights, and any attempts Mayor Blanca Pacheco or the City of Downey has in stifling the people's constitutional rights will be easily defeated in court. The city council members are public officials and as such come under the scrutiny of the public. If public city council meetings do not get the result the people want, then the people have the right to make their voices heard at the homes of elected officials. If that is not something any of this city council wants to deal with, my recommendation is that you step down from public life and let someone who can handle scrutiny and intends on serving the best interests of the people serve. Next, we have an email from Rodolfo Cortez Barragan. Mayor Pacheco and council members, take a look at the flag you swore allegiance to at the beginning of the meeting. During the American Revolution, crowds would go to politicians' houses at all hours. The people would demand freedom to criticize the government loudly and proudly. When these rights were won, they became known as the First Amendment. Other California cities, such as Sacramento, already considered limiting residential picketing, but declined to do so out of respect for the Constitution. Here is a quote from the Sacramento Bee reporting that Mayor Darrell Steinberg, who is the former California State Senate pro tempore, opposed restrictions on residential picketing. The Sacramento City Council late Tuesday dropped proposals to restrict picketing outside private homes and curtail the use of bullhorns in residential areas. Mayor Steinberg said, "The whole issue of residential picketing and noise, it invokes significant constitutional issues, and even though I think there can be and should be much higher level of civility and decorum in many of our political actions, the government should not be weighing in on where and how people can express their points of view." Downey City Council, any action taken to further limit First Amendment free speech activity is unconstitutional and un-American. The council should not pursue this encroachment on the people's rights. If you do so, the people will sue. The people will protest. The people will win. Next, we have an email from Nelson Olvera. Hello, there have been complaints about the protest outside of government officials' houses. They are deemed inappropriate and uncivil by the officials, who wish the public to ignore their disgusting backroom dealings they are doing while they stay at home, sheltered and paid by our tax dollars that we continue to work and risk our lives for. What we are seeing in Washington with bailing of companies and the continued privatization of public entities with our tax dollars is what we are protesting against at the officials, who we need remind the people, the taxpayers, the workers are supposed to work for us. So sorry for the inconvenience, but these are important matters. A minor inconvenience versus the destruction of what little control we have, our government. You take your pick. If you won't stand up for another's rights, what happens when your rights start being fleeced? Next, we have an email from Carlos Araninar. Any limit to barring or restricting the freedom of speech, peaceably assembly will be challenged in court by Downey residents, and I would fully support this challenge. The Downey Tenants Union deserves a seat at the table. Bring them in to talk. I promise their concerns are more urgent than the DOAR and landlords who seem to have undue influence in city matters and legislation. Lastly, an impediment to peaceably assemble in Downey could come at a bad time. City Council recently shortened public comment time from 5 minutes to 3 minutes. And now you want to attack protesters because they are marching? What a bad look. That's all we have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So, this is to answer Councilmember Saab's question. You're not muted, right?
I'm not.
Okay, good. I did bring up this item to our city manager. My concern are my neighbors who are frustrated because I have been targeted 3 times, one at 10 p.m., one at 3 p.m., and the most recent one at 7:30 p.m. I received a lot of complaints from my neighbors because the people that came to protest, they used amplifying devices and they disrupted my neighbors. They used vulgar language, and my neighbors were concerned that there were children in many of these homes and they didn't want to deal with this. And so I wanted to see what we can do so that people, when they're in their homes, can enjoy the comfort, serenity, and peacefulness of being in their homes without dealing with these amplified devices. I agree that First Amendment rights are very important. They're extremely important. And what I want to make sure is that there's that balance between First Amendment rights and individuals who are coming into neighborhoods and disrupting the lives of many of our residents. So I don't know if there's any other comments.
Thank you.
I
Madam
do.
Mayor.
Sorry.
I do. I have a couple of comments. And forgive me for reading this. First Amendment reads, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Clearly, we live in America, the land of the free and the brave, and we defend, and when we swear on that Bible and on looking at that flag, to protect the Constitution of the United States against enemies, foreign and domestic. We do it with commitment, with conviction. However, I do have to let those of you that are watching us on YouTube and those of you that have called on behalf of those few that keep coming to our homes, there's despite the broad freedom of expression guaranteed by the First Amendment, there are some historical rooted exceptions. First, the government may generally restrict the time and the place or manner of speech. It doesn't mean we're infringing upon your right to free speech. But the moment you are showing up in residential homes at odd hours of the day and night with loud speakers, that infringes upon the peace of those neighborhoods. First Amendment protects your right to free speech, but right here it also says people peaceably to assemble. You have every right to ask the government, to petition your government for a redress of grievances. Absolutely. You have every right to do that. And we have no right to infringe upon that. But when you infringe upon the peace of those neighborhoods in which we live, we have decided to run for office because we care about the community. Yes, we are able to take the heat, ladies and gentlemen. But my neighbors and our children did not sign up for this. You tell us that we don't care about this community. Of course we do. Cities around us are laying off people. Don't you see? They are in huge financial deficits. All the cities around us will be furloughing people, will be diminishing services. Downey will not. Downey is a city that protects its residents by providing the finest public safety. We don't get paid to sit in these council chairs, as many of you think. The reason you think that and the reason you come time and time again is because you're misinformed. You waste your time out there protesting things that at the city level we cannot and do not have the power to solve for you. It is up to the governor. It is up to the federal government. Many people are saying people are being thrown out, evicted, and you make it seem so dramatic. There is no one in the city of Downey that is getting evicted. Not one person, not under this pandemic. And so while we as a city council believe in the First Amendment, we also believe that we have to protect the rights of 113,000 people that live in this city. Not just the 10 or 15 or 20 that have the gall to call and to be outside while we conduct the city's business protesting. The government may generally restrict the time and the place and the manner, because when your rights you think are being infringed upon, no sir, no ma'am, you are infringing upon the rights of those neighborhoods to be at peace. So remember that. And ma'am, I am more than happy to serve on this ad hoc committee, because I will not, and they can protest and exercise their First Amendment right all they want. But I'm gonna tell you something. Do not expect, at least not myself, I can't speak for the rest of my council members, when you show up to my house at 8 or 9 o'clock at night with those loudspeakers demanding, accusing, that I'm going to come out and dialogue with you. Absolutely not. In this issue about the water board, you need to drop it, because you're not just wasting your time, you're wasting ours. That is a mute issue, and we're not gonna move forward with it. We're not privatizing the water, and we're moving forward with that issue. Enough. That concludes my comments, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Sorry, now I muted myself. Councilmember Saab.
Yeah, I'll make a comment. Thank you for the constitutional lesson there. There's no way I'm going to support this. This is absolutely against every fundamental basic tenet of what we learned the first day in law school, of the basic constitutional rights. You know, the lesson about the Constitution, yeah. Anyway, so what this does, it basically, I've been on the council for 8 years. We create these ad hoc committees at times that go absolutely nowhere to complete waste of resources. This issue has been litigated for decades in our country. We're not about to, you know, create this issue now that will, in an instant, just like the callers say, face a lawsuit and cost the city probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, when communities across the country for decades have looked into this. And certainly, you know, we're not going to be the first that somehow comes up with some miraculous, you know, issue that, or something that resolves this issue that would infringe on people's rights. You know, in law school, I remember there was a quote, which I always remember. I think it was from a professor in Harvard, and I stand by it. Even though I may not agree with the manner in which some of the people may protest at times, but I think this captures it. Freedom of speech means freedom for those who you despise, and freedom to express the most despicable views. It also means that the government cannot pick and choose which expressions to authorize and which to prevent. I voted against reducing the time from 5 minutes to 3 minutes for this very reason, and this is, pretty much the way I see it, the same thing. Yes, I agree with the council colleagues. Sure, there's a time and place, but I certainly am not, and I don't think anybody else that's elected should have the authority to regulate, what speech that is not violent, that it should be regulated. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I will not be supporting this, and I think it's just going to open a further can of worms. I think that we're already seeing it, and this is just the basic creation of the ad hoc committee. Let alone if this were to even go forward, the amount of grief it's going to cause, the division, and at the end of the day, the laws, I think, are very clear in it. And yes, we signed to the dotted line, and we may or may not agree with the manner or even the speech that people are doing, but that's the cost of freedom, and that's the cost of our democracy. So those are my comments.
Councilmember Ashton?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have to concur with Councilmember Saab on this one. I kind of have an issue with the ad hoc in the sense that, we're the ones that are directly affected by this, and then we're going to serve on the ad hoc committee to regulate that. The optics of that just don't look right. I understand the frustration. I dealt with it last night. They were at my house at, like 9 something, and it is what it is. We decided to do this, and it might not be the most preferential way to deal with constituents, but unfortunately, it's something that has come about this day of age, and I as much as I don't agree with how they're doing it, I still have to understand the fact that this is going to cause a lot of issues in the long run if we do go forward with this, and I'm not comfortable supporting that at this time. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Madam City Attorney, are there any cities that have any ordinances in place?
I have looked at a few of them. City of Tustin, Newport Beach, San Marino have been a few that I've seen that have had these targeted residential picketing ordinances on their books. Some have been litigated, and they prevailed. Most cities don't have this ordinance, but these are just examples of some cities that I looked at. There's some cities up north as well. I did confer with the city prosecutor. He did some additional research with other jurisdictions as well.
Okay. And I understand both Councilmember Ashton and Councilmember Saab. I know how important freedom of speech is. I also know that this freedom of speech is not absolute, just like we cannot, as you know, Councilmember Saab, you cannot constitutionally yell fire in a crowded theater. So my concern here is not the speech that is being given, or whatever speech it is. It's the manner. It's the devices that they are using. It is how it's creating disruption in our neighborhoods, and that is what is disturbing for me. It is not the content. It is the manner in which they are doing this.
So, yeah, but don't we have a noise ordinance?
Ban that in the noise ordinance.
So don't we have a noise ordinance? See, it really concerns me when, everybody says I support free speech. I support it, but when it applies to me, right? When it affects me. And that's where we have to be very careful. There's a slippery slope there. I don't remember any buts, in the Constitution. Very, it just doesn't make sense. So I appreciate, your comments, Madam Mayor, but that's why we have a noise ordinance. And certainly if the neighbors are bothered at any hour, the noise ordinance isn't restricted to the evening, it could be at any hours, then certainly, that's why we have an ordinance and we'll address it. But, you're talking about residential, so, I mean, just hypothetically, so you start addressing, these are some of the issues that are just gonna get so complicated. How are you gonna address a residential that is mixed in the downtown area? People that live in the downtown area, how's that gonna get addressed? What about, people that live, adjacent to Firestone or Florence or in a motel? Or, I mean, it's just, I don't wanna be the one city that is gonna get sued and we're gonna spend $200,000-300,000 on the line and we lose it, and especially, given the economic circumstances that most cities are in now, and to be the poster child when we all know that courts are, and they should be, very deferential to First Amendment rights, to people's freedom of speech, and they're going to do and make decisions that are going to protect that. And I just think, I just don't think this is the right way to approach it. I think we already have noise ordinance. That is the issue here, is the noise that is bothering people, the nuisance. And we already have that in place, and we want to enforce it. We, obviously we leave that to the judgment of our law enforcement officers who know what's best there, and that's it. To go any further, we'll be fooling ourselves to think that we, who are certainly not constitutional experts or First Amendment right experts, are going to come up with something that's going to pass muster. It's just not going to work.
And that's what I think we should be studying, just the noise ordinance issue, just the devices that are being used.
Well, that's a different issue altogether, but that's not what's on the agenda. On the agenda is an ad hoc committee to look for residential picketing. That's what's on the agenda. That I still don't even know who got on the agenda.
We want to take a broader look, Councilmember Saab and Ashton, into this situation. We want to take a broader look and study what the city prosecutor and our city attorney have researched pertaining this. Obviously, we're going to be very prudent. If this doesn't make sense, we will have a different recommendation, but we need to take a closer look.
If it's going to be
I'm not
noise
finished,
ordinance,
please.
then
I'm not
we
finished.
don't need an ad hoc
You
committee
said
for
in the
that.
last 8 years that you've served in council, this has not, nothing like this has happened. We're living in a different time, and I think that these situations continue to escalate and will continue to arise. We need to look at and expand our knowledge base as to what is within our ability to do without putting our city at risk, and also being very careful as far as what other individuals may occupy elected office in the future.
Like I said, if somebody wants to discuss the noise ordinance, then sure, that could be something that could be on the agenda in the future. It could be discussed in open session, but to create an ad hoc committee for an issue like this, I'm not going to support it, and it's going to be a waste of resources. It definitely sends a bad message, like Councilman Ashton said, and I don't have anything further to say. And granted, like all of you, I've been, I'm on the receiving end here, right? It's not something, and my daughter was crying 2 nights ago. So, I mean, certainly, no one is minimizing the effects here. Most of us have young kids, and whether we do or we don't, it doesn't minimize the impact here. But it doesn't address it. It's just going to create open up a can of worms, and I'm not in the position to, more than likely cost the city hundreds of thousands of dollars for an issue that's
we need
been
to
looked at
investigate
in
it
many
further.
jurisdictions.
We need to
It's been
investigate it
litigated.
further and then decide if this is something we want to pursue. Certainly, as we've indicated, You've served on this council for 8 years, Mr. Saab, and you are ending your term. Those people that are in this office and will continue to occupy it, we need to look at ways to also protect and safeguard the neighborhoods. We are living in different times than the last 8 years.
Right, and I'm still on the council though, my vote still counts the same as everybody else, so, that's where I stand. I mean, if you want to bring it up when I'm off the council, you're more than welcome to.
So I just want to mention again, it's again, and maybe what we need to focus on is just the noise ordinance issue, because my concern isn't the content of the speech. It's more the manner, what devices that they're using to amplify their voices, and how that's being very disruptive in our neighborhoods. That's my concern.
No, I appreciate it, but we're being asked to consider an ad hoc committee. So unless somebody makes a motion, I don't know where we're going with this.
If you want to just look at the noise ordinance that's already on our books, we can take a look, and you don't necessarily need to form an ad hoc subcommittee for that. It's already on our books. We just need to take a look and confer with the city prosecutor as to how that gets implemented in this particular situation. And there's no need for an ad hoc subcommittee.
Okay, that's fine. So we won't take a motion on this one. Okay. All right.
There will be no action taken on
No
this
action.
particular item. Okay.
City Manager Rivas, do you have any comments?
Just one brief comment. Given what's been happening with COVID and the fact that the public hasn't been able to be here, one of the things that we always want to share is the first week of May is Public Service Recognition Week. And I will tell you, during this process, the amount of work and the things that staff has done, both, fire, police, recreation staff, whether it's delivering meals to seniors, doing wellness checks, doing food drives, handing out food, policing, making sure our streets are safe, fire department, making sure that, they're transporting patients. All those things are still continuing, making sure that the wheels of government still work, making sure that people have safe drinking water. Those are things that, the little things that go on behind people's offices that don't get seen by the public. It's a minor miracle. You've got hundreds of street lamps around the city, and you have stop signs, and they all have to work. And the water, when people turn on their faucet, they got to make sure it's clean and it's safe to drink, and they're doing that. And people's plans are being inspected, and it's all continuing. We haven't shut down one operation in terms of the city, in terms of what we're doing or what we need to do. We've talked about parks. Contrary to what one of the speakers said, our parks, Golden Park is just a couple weeks away from being opened. Looks beautiful. We're excited. We're disappointed that we can't do a big opening for that, but the residents in the area will have an opportunity to use it. Furman Park is also headed the first week of June to be open as well. So Discovery Park is also. So they're all moving forward. All these things are still happening in town. So I want to thank the staff and the commitment that they've shown, making sure that we get information out to the public during this crisis, and pivoting really quick when the news, because it's real time. I want to thank the council members who have also shared their information, sometimes late at night, giving information to me to share with the public and getting out press releases. And so I want to especially thank those that have been assisting me, Vanya de Rojas, who's been heading a lot of the COVID-19 information, Judy Montenegro, Maria Rivas, Rakdi, Cloak, who are tremendous women in the organization who are doing a fantastic job. So thank you to them. Thank you to the staff who continue to do an amazing job. And thank you to the City Council who have been supportive of all of those staff members and continue to do so. And so we appreciate the work that you've done. So thank you.
And thank you. And I just want to also conclude with thanking staff. Everybody's been doing an amazing job. Our social media pages, we have been providing a lot of information. So I just want to thank staff for doing such a great job. And to our council members, Alex already muted himself, but to council member Saab and Ashton, we miss you here at council chambers. I appreciate all the dialogue that we've had this evening. So thank you both, but know that
I miss you too, Madam Mayor.
Yes,
we
likewise.
really miss you. But thank you for the dialogue. It is truly appreciated, and this is what makes us a great council, that we can have this dialogue for the benefit of our community. And to Mayor Pro Tem from Meta, thank you for your passion. I truly enjoy it. So again, thank you all for participating.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if I can interrupt really quick, I apologize. As we close the meeting, I'd also like to be able to close the meeting in honor of Cerritos Councilman Jim Edwards, who passed a couple of days ago. If we can, when we close the meeting, close it in memoriam of him as well.
I already got that here. But thank you. I would now...
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I would now like to adjourn the meeting in memory of Jim Edwards, Cerritos City Council member, and all lives affected by COVID-19. A moment of silence. Meeting adjourned.